I am absolutely no fan of Tommy Robinson. There's a lot of things that I don't like about his work and what he does. I think there's one instance where I can directly point out he's published fake news. My video was forced taken down, so he then responded by insulting me on Instagram. So not a big fan of the guy. But that's not the issue. The issue here is that they're going to put him in jail again. And I've got to say, regardless of how you feel about him, I think we can look to the UK and the things they've done with him, Count Dankula, and there was a guy who was arrested for misgendering somebody or something like that. The UK is terrifying. It is a terrifying authoritarian state. This is insane. So basically, Tommy was in jail, nearly starved. He came out looking disheveled, couldn't eat his food. The other inmates were threatening him and throwing things at him. It's terrifying. And now there's a concern because they've just decided that the Attorney General is going to prosecute him again. This is terrifying. I gotta say, I'm glad the U.S. has the protections it does, the Bill of Rights. From the Daily Mail. EDL founder Tommy Robinson will face contempt of court charge over Facebook videos outside trial, but slams Attorney General's ruling that proceedings are in public interest. So I think, to clarify, Tommy was outside of a court hearing. Apparently the court case was ending, and so he didn't think there was anything wrong with, here's the idea. The idea is that if you go to a trial and start talking to people, you could influence the trial, and that could actually hurt the prosecutor and help these bad guys get away. But apparently the case was over, and Tommy asked the police if it was okay, and then all of a sudden they were like, nope, and arrested him. And he got locked up for several months. He got let out, and apparently they said it was, there was some judge or barrister or something said it was wrong. I don't know what the terminology is in the UK. Well, now he's apparently going to get locked up again, so let's read it. Former EDL founder Tommy Robinson will face fresh contempt of court proceedings after he allegedly endangered the trial of an Asian grooming gang. Robinson was jailed in May last year after he was accused of potentially prejudicing a court case by broadcasting on social media outside Leeds Crown Court. But his conviction was quashed, and he was freed from prison 3 months later. It was 3, not 6. In August 2018, when appeal judges found the case against him was hastily put together. The appeal judges ruled his case should be retried, but that was delayed after another judge asked the government's top lawyer, Attorney General Geoffrey Cox, to re-examine it. The Attorney General today found it is in the public interest to bring the case back before a court. But we have to think about what this is about. He was filming on Facebook outside a court. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand there's concern. You've got people saying, listen, if he prejudices the court, he could actually help a grooming gang get away with their crime. And I could be wrong, but again, my understanding is it was over. It was over. So he was reporting on the grooming case. The reporting of the grooming gang case was restricted. Tommy went up, asked the police, they arrested him. The Attorney General said today, after carefully considering the details of the case, I have concluded there are strong grounds to bring fresh contempt of court proceedings against Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson. As proceedings are now underway, it would not be appropriate to comment further, and I remind everyone that it is an offense to comment on live court cases. Robinson was arrested in May last year outside one of a series of trials of grooming gang who molested 15 victims, some as young as 11, in Huddersfield. At the time, reporting of the trial was restricted over fears juries in separate cases of the gang could be unfairly influenced by hearing claims not used as evidence. Full reporting of the case was, however, allowed in October last year, when 20 members of the gang were jailed for a total of more than 220 years. The Robinson footage, said to have lasted around an hour, was reportedly watched 250,000 times within hours of being posted on Facebook. The footage at the center of the current case was filmed during the trial of 4 men linked to the grooming gang who were later convicted of gang rape. So I think there's a good point. I thought it was after the fact. Apparently they're reporting now in the Daily Mail it was during the trial. So there's legitimate criticism here, but let's just point out the dude spent 3 months in jail already, and they're going to lock him back up. Listen, Tommy Robinson, I am no fan of his. I do not like his work. I had people asking me to go cover his release of the Panodrama documentary, and they offered to cover expenses, which I would absolutely never do, and I didn't want to do anyway because I said this before. Tommy let me into his event to film. I respect that. This was back at the free speech event, and because I was allowed, I caught, this fake news he ended up publishing, so I'm not a fan. No. But I gotta say, If you lock him up and he dies, you are going to make your problem so much worse. This is absolutely terrifying. You don't have to like the guy to realize what he did, in my opinion. Look, I don't know how the British handle their laws, how it works in the United Kingdom, but to think that he already spent 3 months because he was standing outside filming, and now they're going to bring him back in again. Jesus, that's insane. Reacting to the decision to renew proceedings today, Robinson bemoaned continued delays and insisted he is innocent. He told the Press Association, "What people should be asking is what's taken the Attorney General 5 months? What's taken him 5 months? I walked out of prison for this 6 months ago. What's taken him 5 months? And then it's going to take them another 5 months to get me into court. Another 5 months before trial. How is this in the public interest? This is ongoing state persecution of a journalist who exposes the government, the establishment, and all of their wrongs," he added. "I, along with the support of the British public, will contest this. I am innocent. I broke no law." I want to point something out. There are a lot of activists, and I'm not going to name them outside of Tommy Robinson, who have taken up the moniker journalist. And they do this so they can then throw out, I'm a journalist, I'm being repressed, and things of this nature. At the same time, the act of journalism, at least to many journalists in the US, they believe it does grant the protections of a journalist. The UK, it's my understanding, has only a weak version of free speech and the rights of the press. But in my opinion, I understand the laws of the UK. I understand the potential for prejudicing a jury and all of those things. From an American perspective, I disagree with how the UK handles this, especially when it was Tommy Robinson. So they say Robinson was arrested for filming outside trial in Leeds. This is, okay, I wanted to read that. This is a photo of when he was getting arrested. He was filming with his phone. That's it. Now, admittedly, in the US, there are eavesdropping laws in some places where if you're recording, you could get in trouble. You could even be charged with a felony. But I think the bigger problem here is, I'm assuming this is the grooming gang. Robinson was arrested during a series of trials which eventually saw these 20 men jailed for operating a grooming gang in Huddersfield. So, sure, if the concern is that Tommy is going to jeopardize his case, I understand that, but come on, man. He spent 3 months in jail already. In the US, we would say something like time served. But the bigger concern I have is that Tommy has a massive following. If he when he got locked up, there were people who were furious. I don't know if it was before, during, or after, or whatever, but I know that there were riots, maybe not necessarily riots, but like bordering on riots, protests, people were throwing things. What do you think will happen if you martyr Tommy Robinson? This is the problem. Chinese finger trap. The solution to they don't like him. They banned him from Facebook and Instagram. They don't like his message. Neither do I. But I can recognize the Streisand effect. I can recognize, excuse me, if something bad happens to him, what do you think the real result is going to be? It's going to make him an immortal figure, a martyr for this cause. And I want to point out, too, it goes beyond Tommy Robinson, right? We can talk about the news, and I think we've hit the nail on the head with hammer with that one. But the idea of Count Dankula and what he's gone through says to me that the UK is horrifying, absolutely horrifying. And every day I hear these stories, the escalation of this. I am glad we have a Bill of Rights, and we learned it from you guys. We learned it from the UK as to why we needed it. You have someone like Dankula who made a joke, and what do they do in the newspapers? They say he's a Nazi hate criminal because he made a joke to no one. He didn't have any followers. The UK looks to me to be an authoritarian, repressive state because even if you think, even if you wanted to punish Count Dankula or Tommy Robinson, the lengths at which they go to further destroy you after the fact should be alarming to anybody. Dankula most specifically. You have journalists I've even worked with saying he's not a comedian. Well, what would you call him? What do you mean he's not a comedian? The dude makes jokes for a living, means he's a comedian. Just because you don't think he's funny doesn't make him not a comedian. I'd have to conclude when it comes to Tommy, at a certain point, it's all deliberate. It's not an accident. Bringing him back 5 months later, banning him almost immediately after he published the Panodrama documentary, which shows collusion between some journalists and activists, all of this maybe is a coincidence. But as I said on the Rogan podcast, how many grains of sand until you have a heap? If it was one thing with Tommy or with Dankula where it was like a slap on the wrist, you'd say, listen, these things happen. But when you have all of these different stories, you had the person who was arrested, there's a trans woman recently arrested for saying that they themselves were a man. So when you have stories like this where even a trans person can't say they're a man, when Tommy Robinson is bounced back and forth, when he's banned immediately after his work, when he's repeatedly vilified by the media, and I think there's things to criticize him for, don't get me wrong. When Dankula, I think we're looking at the horrifying state of the UK. You ever see V for Vendetta? I believe that was in the UK. It's been a long time since I've seen it, and that's what we're looking at. So look, I don't know what's going to happen. I believe he's being arrested today. I'm not entirely sure. They said the case will be reheard. Tommy may sit in jail for another 5 months, where he already looked like he was sick. When he came out when he was really sick, and they're escalating it. They're not making him go away. His fans won't stop simply because you ban him from these platforms. They will keep doing their thing. I'll end it there. Stick around. I got more videos coming up in a few minutes. I will see you then.